Welcome this evening, everybody, to Games by Design. This afternoon, depending on where you are, might notice that we've got a little bit of a different scene this evening, because we are doing our Game Awards. I guess it says 2020. 2020 is coming. Game Awards for 2019 to ring in 2020's New Year.
How did we miss that in
I don't
the
know.
setup?
We've looked at it many, many times. We've been watching the setup the whole time, and I mean, it's New Year's. It's 2020.
Nobody caught it until we were live.
It's 2020. Well, it's going to be 2020 soon, and this is the official last panel of 2019 for us. Very, very important note.
But it is the last panel.
Not the last stream, correct, but it is our last panel for the year, and a very exciting note, as 2019 was the founding of our panel. So we are heading into our second number year. Not quite 2 years, or not quite a year, but we are heading into our second number of year. Yay us! And in order to celebrate, we're going to be talking about some of our very favorite games for this year.
Because there were actually a lot of really good games released in 2019.
There absolutely were. There absolutely were. It has been a fantastic year for gaming. There have been some letdowns. There's always some letdowns, though. But in general, an absolutely fantastic year of gaming, and we are really looking forward to hearing what all of you think as well as we go through this. Oh, snap. I got so excited about finishing this brand new setup, I forgot one piece, so I'm going to let Rage start talking a little bit about fave combat. Maybe even just the categories in general, and sort of what we went through as our criteria for picking.
Sure. So with our show, we always like to say that games can be objectively good without being your favorite. And you'll notice that all of our categories here are preceded by the prefix FAV, standing for favorite, because you can be an objectively good game without being liked. Like, for instance, I personally am not that big on the Outer Worlds. I think it's a phenomenal game, but I don't think it's a game for me. So what we've done is we've picked out our favorite combat, our favorite boss, our favorite writing, our favorite visual style, not to be confused with graphics implementation. Visual style being like, how did they approach the actual art in the game versus how did they actually implement the programming parts to make it actually run on your computer. Favorite character, favorite soundtrack, our favorite hidden gem, generally, an indie game that didn't get quite as much attention as we think it deserves. And then our favorite PC, PS4, and Xbox One games, because we've noticed that that's something that people don't really talk about, is games that might be only available on one platform. And then our favorite overall game for 2019.
Absolutely. What has happened here?
So, while Deus is fixing whatever he's fixing,
I'll show you.
I'll go.
The
what
wording is upside down and backwards.
That's pretty amazing. I like that. I say just leave it.
I guess.
Maybe you can vertically flip the source in a filter or something. I don't know.
Totally can. But why do I have to?
Why? The favorite combat category for the three of us was a fairly straightforward pick. It's the combat implementation that we enjoyed the most, the one that we felt was the most responsive, the one that we felt was the most fun to just take joy in the mechanics of the game and really drove you to want to be good at it and putting in your time and really just enjoying playing the video game. It's a category that, doesn't necessarily cover everything. It doesn't do sports games, for instance, but it does cover quite a few action games, quite a few puzzle games, because they will have some sort of combat in them to varying degrees of success. So we all have been playing some games recently that we all thought had pretty good combat overall, but there definitely was one that stood out head and shoulders above the rest. And I'm just trying to, vamp and fill some time while Deus gets this upside downness sorted out.
I deleted it. I made a new one in the exact same way, and now it's normal.
Nice. So we do have it sorted.
Kind of.
Kind of, sort of.
Kind of.
Enough to reveal our game choices.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Okay, well let's go with your choice first, seeing as this is your channel.
Sure.
And we can test it. Make sure it's right side up.
Oh, it is. It is. It is. It absolutely is. And the very first reveal, favorite combat, 2019. Many of you probably don't need to be told what my opinion was. Sekiro. 100%, hands down, the best combat I have experienced.
Yeah, and I've got to say, if I was pushed to pick my favorite combat in any game I have ever played, it would also be Sekiro. And therefore, it also gets my favorite combat of 2019.
And it will get his favorite in just a second. Like that.
Nice. And you may note that I
You're very
may
quiet,
have
Suda.
worn an appropriately themed shirt today.
That is an excellent Roberto shirt. Someone who cares about you a great deal must have gotten you that.
Indeed.
How am I now?
You're very quiet.
Very quiet, Pseudo. Bear with us. Additional technical difficulties.
We were actually talking just fine moments ago, so. It chose now to break. Just like the 15-minute notification you usually get, you got 10 minutes today because when I went to hit the notification, my computer crashed.
It's like Y2K, but it's Y2020.
Yeah, it's almost like
you guys hear me
Y2K, but it's hitting 2020.
Is it better now?
It is better.
It is better.
Awesome. Okay. As I was saying, for combat, Sekiro is also my favorite, and this is coming from someone who hasn't really played much of the From Software lineup until now, and I think I played a little bit of Dark Souls before jumping to Sekiro, and without even the prior expectations, the combat kind of blew me away of how just intuitive it was at first, and just how smooth everything felt. Felt like you're actually a samurai fighting with a sword, and just it doesn't kind of make the game easier for you at any part. You just get better, and it's designed in a way where like the controls are intuitive but still challenging.
Oh, geez, you can hear hockey in the background, can't you?
I'm not hearing it too much, or maybe a bit, but
There we go.
yeah, it was. They did a phenomenal job on it. Very, very polished.
Yeah, it's an incredibly smooth, responsive, good-feeling combat system, and it absolutely deserves attention from any gamer who enjoys an action game, somebody who enjoys a challenge. You don't necessarily have to be a fan of FromSoft's other games, though it can be beneficial. It can also be a detriment.
It could be a detriment. They are very different combat styles from the Dark Souls series. But yeah, the reason it's my favorite, why I'm putting it up there, I've never felt like I'm fighting with a sword more than when I'm playing that game. They nailed sword fighting. Absolutely nailed it. There is no better way to say it. Sekiro is the new standard for video game sword fighting. You're breaking posture. You're not dealing damage. You're trying to catch the other person off guard so that you can deliver a death blow. That is swords. Swords, you don't go, I've hit you 5 times. Let me hit you a couple more. No, you get hit the 1 or 2 times, you usually lose. Yep.
Yep, and the combination of how they worked the posture system in with the health, I thought was brilliant as well. Because your enemies do have health as well. You can kill them without breaking their posture.
Absolutely.
But it would be, the death by 1,000 cuts.
Yep.
When you're hitting your enemy, just a small hit here, a small hit there, little cuts all over them, slowing them down, making their posture weaker. I thought it was such a brilliant implementation of those two systems, and how they were tied together was absolutely perfect.
Absolutely. Pseudo hasn't gotten to dig into it too much, but yeah, the mechanic cohesiveness, as we always call it, between your stance and your health is just perfectly done. Thank you so much for this system. The more health you have, the quicker your stance recovers. The less health you have, the slower your stance recovers. It's so simple, but it puts so much depth into their combat. If you haven't played Sekiro and you like a good combat, Sekiro is the game for you. So saith the entire panel.
Yeah, we were not expecting well, at least I wasn't expecting this much agreement in our choices this evening. Yep. But Sekiro truly is a standout game.
Yep. So just so everybody's aware, we didn't sit down and talk about these as a group. Ever. We took a list of the categories and we sent it around to everybody on the panel, all three of us, and we said, here, fill this out. And then we got it back and we were like, Sekiro. Wow. Okay.
That's
good game. Alrighty. Since your mic is now working, we can go on to the new round, Pseudo.
Sure.
Hey, what up? I'm Bored, and welcome to the 2019 Game Awards getting ready for 2020. Alright, I made the 2020 make sense.
Working backwards on the 2020.
So we just finished talking about combat, and if you like combat in a game and you haven't played Sekiro, you can see up here that Sekiro is the game that you must play. And we are going on to our favorite bosses from games this year. And this one's fun. And everybody was different, which is nice. Nice.
Yeah, we each had different choices for this one, which is good. It shows we don't just play Sekiro all the time.
No, just every other game.
Yeah.
Don't mind that error. That was just failing to open a project file for some reason. Apparently when I crashed earlier, Sublime Text 2 really got unhappy.
Yeah, it does that.
Like, I'm not getting any text on it at all.
That seems bad. So Pseudo, maybe you can introduce your favorite boss and say a little bit about it.
Sure thing. So my favorite boss was Goro Majima from the Yakuza 3 remake that was on the PS4. I think might have released on PC this year. It's mostly just a remaster from the previous one, but I really like what they did with Majima in the game. And there's a few times that you fight him, and one is in like an arena. And in the last arena fight, it's fairly hard. Most of the Yakuza game is fairly straightforward. It's not really a challenging game. It's more kind of a funnier, silly, campy kind of style. I absolutely love this series a lot, but this fight was one of the first times it made me kind of buckle down and try. Majima basically just starts fighting really fast. You have to kind of timing your dodges and your blocks perfectly, and it took a lot of strategy with it. And it was one of the few times this year when I was playing a game that really kind of got me into what was happening and what to fight, and also just the character himself is just absolutely hilarious. He just says the most hilarious dialogue to you. I won't spoil too much of it, but if anyone who's played the Yakuza games will know just what Majima is and how he is, and kind of just how he interacts with Kiryu through the whole game.
Yeah, I haven't played a lot of the Yakuza games, but I have watched several playthroughs, and Majima is one of my favorite characters in the entire series.
He is absolutely fantastic. He's just delightfully insane and silly. is just, he's just the best.
Goro Majima. He's just Goro Majima. All right. And Rage? I went first last time.
For my favorite boss, I decided to pick a boss from my game with the favorite combat that I experienced in 2019.
You mean good combat
And
leads
I
to a good
picked-
boss?
Who'd have thunk it, right?
Never
but-
heard this before.
But what I ended up picking as my favorite boss was Owl, Father, from Sekiro. It's a boss fight that requires incredible control, incredible spacing. You've got like 2-frame windows where if you step forward and initiate an attack at that point, you'll get a little bit of extra damage in, and that'll set you up for your next combo. And he's super punishing. He's very fast. He has a very varied move set. He's got a lot of different things that he can do, and it was one of those fights that it was just learning. I was learning the entire time. And as somebody who has over 1,000 hours in the Souls series, a couple hundred hours in Bloodborne, and then experiencing a boss fight where I was learning the whole time in Sekiro, it really got my heart pumping, and I absolutely loved getting my ass kicked for 3 or 4 hours straight, trying to find those little 2-frame windows to get in more damage in Sekiro. And Sekiro's combat system really does lend itself to that, because it's tightly tuned enough that if you're good at the game, you can find those windows. And I just absolutely refused to be defensive.
As you do. And you hit 4 keywords there. 4 keywords that really, really sets a boss apart in my world. Got my heart pumping. That's a key.
Yeah.
When I fight
And
a
it was-
good boss, I want my heart to be... I'm feeling like my heart's running into my rib cage. I've got to sit down and pause the game for a minute, maybe call 911. You know, that's a boss. That's a boss.
Yeah, and Owl's timings are just, they're so tight, and there's an intended easier way to deal with that boss, but I just absolutely refused to do it the intended way, because I was like, no, there's 2 frames there. I'm gonna get an attack in. I'm gonna do it. And I did. It took me 4 hours, but I did it.
It's exactly how I approached Genichiro when I fought. I'm like, I don't want to run away. I'm just going to keep chasing you around and attacking you. It made the fight so much easier. That's the amazing thing about that. That's why its combat is number 1. There's another point I'd like to just quickly talk about its combat. The game's AI will adjust and change to your level of aggression. That's amazing. If you play defensive, they will come at you with the biggest, strongest attacks and just wreck you. Wreck you. Absolutely destroyed. However, if you turn around and constantly attack them, they will be forced to block, and get quick little attacks in, and they will change their style and completely change how they approach you. Absolutely
Wonderful
amazing.
combat engine.
Absolutely
so
amazing.
Good.
Which circles around to my own favorite. And it's a little too big to fit in my box, so I'm going to have to shrink it, because it's a big name. It really is. I've been fixing some other issues on the side here, so that's why that's there. And for me, also, from my game with favorite combat, but not the same boss, and for completely different reasons, which is nice. For me, my favorite boss from Sekiro, Sword Saint Ishin. Now, Sword Saint Ishin is a special, I'm specifying which one, because if you're not familiar with Dark Souls, or Sekiro, Ishin is the last boss. But there's 2 endings where you fight 2 different forms of Ishin. Sword Saint is specifically the long ending Ishin, which is the one you saw me fight on stream, if you watched. And the reason I'm choosing this as hands down my favorite boss, and I mean hands down, is he tests every single skill in the game. He has sweeps, he has thrusts, he has throws, he has quick attacks, he has long staggered attacks, he fights with a sword, he fights with a pole arm, sometimes both of them at the same time.
Because Ishin, and that boss fight is really hard.
It is not an easy boss fight. It's a very fun boss fight. Again, got my heart pumping real good. But the major thing is, and not just my favorite boss, but one of my favorite end bosses, the last boss. Because as a last boss in a game, you should be challenging every single skill that you've taught the player throughout that game. Now that you've spent the last 30, 40, 50 hours learning all these skills to get here, let's see how well you've got them down. Let's test them all with one boss and see if you can get it down. And if you get Ishin down, you truly have got every single skill in the game. You know how to deal with them all.
We're not talking, skills as in skill tree.
No.
We're talking developed skills that you have learned while playing Sekiro.
Yeah. Everything that, as Suda was talking about how you need to improve your skill as you go, and the improved skill is core to the game. You don't get more powerful, you just get good. That's all there is to it.
And it's kind of a really amazing system.
It really, really is. If you have not done yourself the favor of actually watching that game or playing that game, preferably playing. Though I do know some people that said it was too hard for me to finish. However, they thoroughly enjoyed whatever they were able to play. So,
which is
there's that.
Totally fair.
Yep.
It is a really hard game.
It is a difficult game, and that's maybe the one complaint that some people could make. However, I always argue, bad and hard are not the same thing. Just because it's too hard for you doesn't make it a bad game. It just means you need to get good. That's it. Otherwise, fantastic. You must play that game. What are we on to? We're on to favorite writing. I guess I'll start.
Sure.
Since I haven't started any. And for me, again, a no contest decision. Absolutely no contest. You haven't gotten to watch me play it. Hopefully I will get to play it one day. The best writing of 2019, drum roll, Outer Worlds. The newest game from Obsidian, merging with the previous developers from Interplay's Black Isle, being Fallout 1, Fallout 2, Baldur's Gate 2, and Icewind Dale. That is all they ever did. There's not a bad game on that list. And now we can add Outer Worlds to the list of games that team has done, and there's not a bad game on that list. There isn't.
Nope. They are all very good games.
Yeah, their writing is their specialty. Absolutely. It is organic. Everybody has their own thoughts, feelings, drives, inspirations. No one's good. No one's evil. Everybody's just people. And you decide who you think is the moral person in this decision. And when I got to the end of the game and saw the results of my decisions, I literally, in some of my instances, went, I really didn't want you to go that way, buddy. I'm not helping you again. The writing just absolutely blew me away. Absolutely. And I look forward to my next playthrough of that game. I don't play a lot of games twice, but I thoroughly look forward to my next playthrough on that game.
And on that note, I have to say that as somebody who generally does not enjoy the character-driven RPG all that much to play it, Outer Worlds is my pick as well. It's a character RPG that made me really want to play it just on the back of how good the writing is. The characters, you believe that they are people. Like Deus said, it is truly an organic feeling world. You feel like these are all just people doing their best with their own motivations. And that combined with the really, really good facial rigging tech in the game conveys so much emotion. And it really makes you feel like you are living in that world. And that is, to me, one of the most impressive things that you can do with a character RPG game, because they are often so mechanically dissonant, especially when they're done in third person.
Absolutely.
Which Outer Worlds wasn't, but there is an added layer of suspension of disbelief required when it is a third person game.
That's fair. That's a fair comment, though I actually tend to prefer the third person view for those games.
I agree as well for the sake of the combat system,
Yeah.
but I think Outer Worlds nailed it. They really made you feel like you are in that universe.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had my hesitations about the first person view due to some other previous first person view games of that style and genre, which will remain nameless. But they nailed it. They really did. Pseudo?
Uh, as well as for me, Outer Worlds is got the my favorite writing. It's the first time in a long time I actually cared about the characters that were going on. They were very unique in the way that their flaws and traits were presented was done in such a way that it wasn't forced at all, and you kind of just naturally find out what these people are like. It doesn't just give you like a list bullet point form saying this is what this person is, here's how they're going to act. You don't really know what people are really going to do because you don't really know them too well yet until you go throughout the game. And then as well as the companions you get are so well written in their side quests, and their each of the companion quests is so well done that you actually care about what's happening and what's going on, and you really just want to know what's happening in this world that they created. Where in a lot of games like this, you kind of just can take it or leave it. I don't really know a whole lot of what was going on in Skyrim. I had fun playing and stuff like that, but like a lot of the towns kind of just felt the same, had the same problems,
There
felt a
was
little
no
cookie
real
cutter.
story in it.
But with Outer Worlds, it's like it's fairly short, which is fine since it's more of the quality over quantity.
Yes.
And just even the first companion you get, if you get her, because this game is you can do a lot of stuff to kind of have a lot go down a lot of different paths and have a lot of different kind of endings.
Yep.
But she presents you with choices, and choices that most games would present you in a way that it's like, oh, there's a very obvious good or bad. Do I push the button? Do I not push the button? And this way, it was presented. It's like, oh, like I really actually kind of have to think about this. Like, what is this really going to do? Like, this is kind of like a big choice, whereas most games, a big choice is not really a big choice at all. You can
Yeah.
just 10 seconds, okay, A or B, let's go. Where this
Yeah.
one, I like actually
Whether or
had to
not you
pause the game and sit for a little bit and be like, wow, I really actually need to think about the consequences of my decision here.
absolutely, whether or not you blow up the town isn't a moral decision. No matter how you break it down, that's just not a tough decision to make morally.
No, it's really not. But on the other hand, particle effects.
Oh yeah, I mean they were terrible actually.
Yeah, they weren't great. The payoff was not worth it.
But yeah, going back to that, your point on the very, very first decision, major decision you have to make in Outer Worlds, that's the first time in as long as I can remember where a game gave me a decision and I just didn't go, yeah, this one. I went, oh.
Ooh, this all sucks.
Yeah. And I actually left without doing anything. And I went back to the town and I talked to everybody and I questioned them and tried to figure out what their mental states were and where they're really going to be going with these decisions and who do I really want to back in this race. And I didn't really like either of them. Like, just get along. I don't want to choose sides, but you have to. You have to. That's the bottom line with it. You have to make this decision. I think I spent about an hour and a half researching my decision on that one.
It's a sign of a good game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Makes you give a damn.
The next one, as we do it, I'll even throw up some samples of the visual style, because there are some pretty games in this category. Go figure.
You may have revealed my choice there, Mr. Deus.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how it got there. Should have been in its group. There we go. Much better. Would you like to talk about it then?
Sure. Since my title has been revealed, my favorite visual style of the year was Octopath Traveler.
A Switch
It's
game
a
of
game
all things.
that, yeah, a Switch game, and it's not something that is like even running particularly well on the hardware, but it's a game that really captured the feeling of nostalgia that you experience when playing, or at least that I experience when playing older games like Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI. It evokes that same sort of like that putting yourself in another world, and it makes you feel like you're in this whole new place. You've got all these new things to explore, and that is very much helped along by the graphical style. For those of you who haven't taken a look at Octopath yet, it has a sprited look on top of a 3D rendered world, but that is done in a tiled fashion to make it look like those older RPGs. And it comes through so well, and it evoked so many good memories in me of playing older JRPGs, of playing games like Ragnarok Online, which did a very similar style of animated sprites on top of a 3D world, and it immediately just tugged those heartstrings and had me wanting to play more and wanting to see more of this game.
So there you can see a little bit of Octopath Traveler happening. So we've got that classic sprite look, but they've panned it out over a, almost an isometric view, rendered it in 3D, and allowed you to view 2D sprites in a 3D layout. And man, it really, really worked. Here we have a little bit of moving around the world. And let's jump into a little bit of the combat on it, because the combat was just glorious.
And again, with another very interesting touch to the art style, the enemies are done in a traditional JRPG style, where they're often much bigger than your sprites and have much more intricate art.
Yeah, we
And
can
I think
see
that's
a
really
really
cool.
cool looking boss there. Yeah, they just so I'm not a the game was okay as a game, but as an art piece, this game truly, truly, truly stands out. And as such, I too have given it my favorite art style. I'm amazed that Rage and I were the same on that one. I really am. But that speaks just volumes towards this game's art. I mean, look at this. It is beautiful. The 3D particle effects mixed with the 2D pixels. Just staggering. Just staggering. So if you're a JRPG fan and you've got a Switch, this is definitely one worth picking up and giving a play. It is a very, very beautiful play. The story is a 5 or 6 out of 10. My mind, it's pretty average JRPG story. It's a little spread up. It's going to be a bit of grinding and going through to get all these characters to figure out what's what and start building their stories. But it is definitely worth a play. I don't know about a lot of plays, at least worth a play, and it's not ridiculously expensive for what it is. Not a bad pickup at all. Pseudo?
Yeah. Mine are a bit different. I've been mostly focused on a lot of indie games this year.
Yeah. Well, the indie scene has been fantastic this year, right? So.
Yeah, it's been actually pretty great. The main one I'm probably have to say is probably just Void Bastards. It just kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I just really, really like the art style. It's just very, very unique. There's been a few other a couple games that have done something similar before, but the way that this one just kind of encapsulates the whole feel of the comic book look into the entire game loop, as well as the every transition and just the game itself, it tied it together wonderfully. Um, it's a small little roguelike that came out, I think, the middle of this year. It has this kind of, I don't know really how to describe it. The comic book look was kind of cel shaded, but the colors are very nicely done. They contrast with each other very well. Just the game overall just looks very pretty, just from like the graphic novels, kind of
Look,
cutscenes to the actual gameplay when you're running around in the ships themselves and the enemies as well. The enemies are like flat, like 2D sprites with animations that follow you around, which
mhm.
really kind of adds to the whole experience. I enjoyed it uh, completely overall. Some another honorable mention is something that came out very recently. I haven't had a chance to pick it up yet and play it, so but I really want to kind of just give it a shout out for its style, which is the Tourist, which just came out on Switch.
Mhm.
It is in my mind beautiful. It's voxel, but it's kind of like a highly stylized and well shaded voxel.
We've
And
actually just gotten to the gameplay in Void Bastards on the stream here. So it's like an FPS, but it's almost like playing an FPS in a 90s cartoon.
exactly, got a bit of a nostalgia for anyone who kind of played PC games back in the '90s, or I guess any kind of games back then. But like anything from just like the UIs to the maps, everything is just very consistent. Everything's very well done, ties together very well. Anything from like the pop-ups to the UI elements, um, it's just great.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it a lot.
it kind of reminds me of a slightly more cartoon Borderlands
Yeah, a bit.
on
It's
the
that
style.
cell shaded kind of rendered. And when like when you're in a different room, the way you can tell who's in there, you can see the text that pops up, and when there's sound effects, there's kind of just like the words that go along with it, just like as if you're in a comic book or something.
Okay, so
And
they've really pushed that comic book feel.
yeah, yeah,
I could definitely see a 90s comic book here.
Yeah, the graphical style in Void Bastards. Honestly, it's a game that I had forgotten about before Pseudo mentioned it earlier today.
Which is a
But as
shame.
soon as he did, I was just like, "Oh my God, yes, that is a wonderful game." You know, I think I still like Octopath's style more personally, but the visual style in this game is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's got some serious style, and I'm really glad that Pseudo brought this one up and showed it to everybody because it's definitely one that everybody deserves to take a look at.
yeah. They definitely put a lot of effort into this. Where I've seen a lot of games kind of will go for this style and then fall flat halfway through, and you can tell that the design team really went fully committed to this aesthetic, and they did a really good job.
So we did want to give a couple shout outs here, I believe, for honorable mentions. And one of the honorable mentions, in very similar style, but just a little more normal to its trend, was Borderlands 3, which came out this year.
And while there are clearly no bugs in Borderlands 3,
There
no,
are
no,
no
no,
bugs in
no
Borderlands.
bugs.
The Borderlands do not contain bugs.
Uh, it has, I think, struck a very, very nice balance between their cell shaded, somewhat cartoony style, not quite as much into the cartoon styling as Void Bastards, and a usage of accurate lighting to give a very, very cool visual effect. And I feel like Borderlands 3 nailed it even more so than the previous two games did. And it just really lends life to the world.
I have thoroughly enjoyed my time in the Borderlands. Not an FPS fan. People that know me know Deus is not a fan of FPS. Deus is a fan of Borderlands, though. Though I am becoming more of an FPS fan. due to some asshole's influence. Thank you, asshole.
It's me. Surprise.
Surprise, I'm an asshole. All right. Did you want to give out any shout-outs there, Sudo?
Yeah, I think I've talked about it briefly before. The tourist. You can
The
pull up a small video
Tourist.
of that. It's recently came out in the last month or so, and it's voxel, but it's just beautiful. And there's so many little minor details. I was watching a full breakdown. It's tourist with a Y instead of an I.
I
Yeah,
found
there
it.
you go.
We got there.
And anything from just like the little like the footmarks you leave, just to like the physics and the wind and the grass and everything. It's just so many minor details that kind of bring it together. What would typically would be a very basic kind of campy art style to something that's actually surprisingly beautiful given the lighting it has.
Yeah, wow. This is the first time that I've seen uh any footage of this game, and this lighting system is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
There's
I still myself give it to Octopath. Just because I think what Octopath did is a little bit more original. But this is taking the Minecraft voxel system and taking it to a level of polish that we just haven't really seen.
It's also there's a whole I think Dia Foundry video on it that goes over the efficiency of the engine they have, and it's just like amazing what they've pushed the Switch to do.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, I mean, that's a good point. We're
the
doing
kind
this
of
on
technical mar-
Switch hardware.
But yeah, I want to give it an honorable mention. I haven't really gotten to pick it up. It's as you said, um, it's still like voxely, and there's a lot of kind of places they can improve on and stuff. But I definitely think it deserves a shout out for what they have accomplished and what it looks like and how the style is and the direction that they're taking. It's
I
just
mean, looking at how
very cool looking.
looking at how things are laying out, I I don't think it's actually voxel, especially the way the voxes are
Um, it is.
elasticy, and it's actual voxel.
Yeah, they use voxel editors to model everything. I'll send you a video that breaks down the whole design of how they did everything and how they created all the levels and stuff like that. But yeah, it is voxel.
That's interesting then, because this is definitely voxel to the next level. The characters, despite being voxel, have a much more organic movement and feel to them.
Yeah, there's a lot of shaders going on, a lot of animations. But at the
Yeah,
core
no
of the
doubt.
base, I think everything was designed around using the voxel tool.
I am blown away by this lighting engine.
Is this game out already?
Yeah, it came out I think late November. I've been meaning to pick it up, but haven't had too much of a chance to use my Switch.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get through Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's a slow process when you only play it in, 2 or 3 hours a week.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for showing this to us.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't normally like voxel, but they really killed it. They have killed it.
So I've also got a shout out that I would
Oh,
like to give to
okay.
another game this year. And I would like to give a shout out to the folks at Remedy for their work on Control. I think Control, while it goes for a more realistic style, it's also a game that has just such a wonderful effects setup, and it uses the realism juxtaposed with the surreality of the situation that you're in to really come off with an interesting feel. You know, the use of brutalist architecture, the way that your powers are tearing apart the environment around you, the way that the enemies look, the way that the enemies move, how the conversations are done. I found this style to be very, very compelling. It makes you feel like you're in a world where things are just weird. Like most things are just not quite what you expect them to be.
See
And
what
that
you're
was
talking
super
about.
cool.
Like the way when they die, the blood just kind of everywhere.
Yeah, and you can see very heavy use of chromatic aberration on almost all of the particle effects.
Yep. Yep. You can see all the rainbows of colors, basically, is what he's saying, fluctuating through that blood mist as it puffs out.
Just very interesting visual style. It didn't evoke the same feelings in me as Octopath Traveler did, but it was still an art style that I felt needed to be recognized.
For sure,
Maybe
it's a
maybe like
really
try and
it's a really really cool touch to a very basic and overdone style. It
maybe
definitely deserves
maybe
the
skip
mention.
forward, see if we can find some heavier combat, because the combat ends up looking very impressive in this game. Oh, wow. Just standing there listening to the radio. That's compelling.
Yep. Now we've got flying
Here we
around.
go. So like this is a fairly realistic looking environment, but now we start throwing, your incredible psychic powers into it. You're flying around shooting these big dudes, and you got all of these different weapons that are just like morphing out of this pistol thing. Yeah, I just thought it was really cool. And the lighting engine and its juxtaposition with the brutalist architecture of the structure that you're in, it just really struck me.
I agree. It does have very nice style, and it for sure deserves a shout out. I love the. I mean, I bet you there's some really interesting shaders for all that color aberration.
Yeah, for sure. And this is one of the few games that does actually have support for RTX. So if you've got an RTX card and you want something that's going to make it really push itself and be just visually stunning, I highly recommend picking up Control.
Yeah, I agree that Octopath takes it still though, just because of the uniqueness of it. This is a nice touch on something everyone's done, whereas that is just something no one's done yet.
Well, nobody's done in a while. Ragnarok Online did it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Similar. And then Tree of Savior copied the style of Ragnarok.
Yeah. Oh man, I forgot about Tree of Savior.
There's a good reason for that. That was a very forgettable game.
Yes, it was.
I'm still confused how it's multiplayer and why it's multiplayer. I guess I didn't play it enough. I'm sure there's a fan of the game out there somewhere that's going to watch this and go, "Oh, it's because of this." Well, you know what? The next time, come to the channel and make that argument, and maybe I'll go play it again, or maybe I'll tell you off and tell you why you're wrong. We'll find out. Anyway, I thought the Borderlands would have been a nice segue
into some
favorite
character.
character.
And this is a game, or rather a series, that is normally known for its character writing. It's generally something that's fairly quirky, has a lot of very strange characters to it, and if this were, what is it, 2014, where Borderlands 2 released, Borderlands 2 would be getting the attention. But this year, my pick was Borderlands 3, and in specific, its character Flack, one of the player characters. And the player characters generally have, either inoffensive or somewhat lacking flair language in order to allow you to impose yourself into the game. But Flack, I just found that his one-liners are amazing. His barks are amazing. When he goes down, he's hilarious. He just had me laughing the entire way through the game when I didn't particularly enjoy most of the other characters in the game.
And I, too, interestingly enough, ended up picking Black, FL4K. I didn't even play him. I
Oh yeah,
played.
you were just hanging out while I was playing Flack.
Yeah, yeah. We played together. I was playing as whatever the gunner's name, Mose. I was Mose, and while I enjoyed the playstyle and the build, she was just a character. But Flack had me laugh so hard I just stopped playing and let Rage shoot things and laugh at what he says when he does it. That's that was the more enjoyable way to play the game at times. Let's listen to Flack.
Just listen to Flack say hilarious things for a while.
So if you're not gonna play multiplayer with someone playing Flack, play Flack. You won't regret it. He is quite enjoyable.
Also, just like play Borderlands 3. It's a good game.
That is true as well. Borderlands 3, very solid. Strongly recommended. Though I do enjoy Borderlands 2 more. The interesting note on that is I played Borderlands 2 after Borderlands 3.
Yeah, Borderlands 2's writing is just above and beyond what they did in Borderlands 3, but Borderlands 3 does have much better mechanical focus. The actual gunplay, the actual core gameplay loop is much better in 3.
Pseudo?
Well, for me, it goes back to the Yakuza series with Majima. Probably one of my all-time favorite video game characters. I almost basically exclusively play the Yakuza series just for interactions with this guy. Um, Absolutely just love everything that he does. It is just hilarious. I think it was might have been the second remake that has the Majima Everywhere mechanic, where he just fights you randomly. You'll be walking around and you'll just notice an absurdly large traffic cone in the road. And you walk over to it, and then he just pops out of it and just wants to fight you. Or you'll be going into a club and you'll notice there's a person dancing on stage, and then all of a sudden he starts yelling at you, and it's look, it's Majima again. Almost anywhere you go, Majima would just be laying late just for the sake. He doesn't even. It's not even like a boss or an enemy. He's just like acknowledges that you're a strong individual and just wants to fight you just for the sake of fighting. Very kind of old school methods, and he's just hilarious. Like kind of high pitched yelling voice, just absolutely just bonkers, insane. Never know what he's gonna do next. Never know who's gonna show up next. It's just a riot. Every time you kind of like hear his little laugh in the distance, I just get excited. I'm like, oh yeah, here comes Majima. What's he up to now? What kind of stupid stuff is happening now? It's just by far my favorite. I'll probably always give favorite character to this. I've ever had so much fun. And then in Zero, which came out a few years ago, you have to actually play as Majima, which was just like almost a dream come true for me. Most of the time you get like smaller segments, but it was like a larger segment of the game just dedicated to him, and it was just fantastic. I had so much fun with it.
You're getting a little quieter there. Are you leaning back?
No, but my preamp, I think, kind of sucks the longer I use it.
Okay. So Pseudo needs a new preamp. Should have known that a week ago.
That would have been convenient.
Nanu,
Hey,
Mr.
welcome,
Lowe.
Lo.
Welcome to the awards. How has your day been? How has your holiday been?
Well, while Lo is getting back to us about how his holiday has been, I'll introduce favorite soundtrack. This is an award for some of the games, obviously, that had music that we found that really moved us. And it's not necessarily about, technical achievement in a soundtrack, more of just soundtracks that make you feel awesome.
Well, that's why we're saying it's our favorite soundtrack.
Exactly.
Because how can you say there's a better soundtrack?
And after all, art is all about evoking emotion.
It is indeed. So what's your favorite?
My favorite for this year would actually be Fury, Furi, which is a game that I gave a shout out to earlier in our indie roundup as having an incredible soundtrack. It's mostly synthwave and has been done by several artists well known in the genre, all coming together to work with different styles and different feels to give the different bosses in the game their own unique soundtracks that really convey the emotional side of that boss, despite it just being a game that's boss fights. Just go fight bosses. Thought it was very well done.
Talking about the
You're
game
really
that-
quiet again, Pseudo. You need to crank that preamp, apparently.
All right, how about now?
That's better.
Hey, we can hear you.
You're eating
just
cereal
shout
right
it.
now, Alo. Awesome.
Um, yeah, I have a bad habit of playing games and then just kind of putting on my own Spotify playlists when I play certain games, especially as some of the kind of generic AAA titles that have been pumped out when I'm playing them. Stuff similar to Breakpoint. It's kind of better to throw out my own little stuff I have when I want to play action games. But one game that I thought was actually really well done was Void Bastards again. It kind of a lot of their tracks kind of reminded me of Doom, the original Doom, and the tracks that they had on certain situations and certain levels and stuff like that. With Void Bastards, a lot of the ships that you'll come across, the gameplay is basically you're going from ship to ship, kind of just looting them and exploring around. And there's a lot of different themes. There's kind of like a rich luxury kind of like cruise ship. There's kind of like discarded kind of wrecked bandit ships and all this other stuff. There's always like a different kind of soundtrack that goes with the theme in the art style as well.
Mhm.
And it suits it very nicely, as well as there's random encounters such as the pirates, space pirates, will board on the ship as well and will attack you. And then this really intense music starts playing, gets your blood pumping, and also kind of freaks you out a little bit when the music starts playing. And most of the time, you kind of just have to run if you don't have the weapons to deal with them. But I thought it was very well done. It's one of the few games that I played this year that really kind of used the audio cues to really kind of trigger emotion in me and get me kind of feeling scared, and feeling nervous, and kind of feel like a badass depending on what's going on. It's very, very well done.
You're getting really quiet again.
Yeah, I actually got a new interface. I don't have it here. But for next time, we'll be.
Oh no.
Sounds good. Anyway, here's a little bit of Walk the Plank from the Void Bastard soundtrack. I'm guessing this would be when pirates are invading your ship.
Typically, yeah.
I like it.
I think there's
Upbeat.
a one that's
Action-y. Is the game kind of run and gun when you're playing that? Or are you hiding behind things while it's playing?
when that one's playing, you're running because those things track you down. So you're running and gunning and a lot of kind of intense action. So it suits it. It suits the
Sounds good. I like it. I like it. And for mine, and I'm very happy that all of us chose different ones here because it really exemplifies how different favorite can make something and have them all be correct. And for my favorite soundtrack, it was Final Fantasy XIV, the new Shadowbringers soundtrack. That game, no matter what anybody says about it, everybody will agree that it has beautiful music. The game is all good on the soundtrack level.
Yeah, the soundtrack was definitely fantastic. I dropped out of playing Final Fantasy XIV quite some time ago, but I've been over to Deus's place and seen some more gameplay, and more importantly, listened to the music while I was there, and I was really blown away with how good it was. It's just absolutely wonderful, wonderful soundtrack.
This is the soundtrack, or the song for the final boss in the new 24-man raid. It's almost frummy.
And I would like to offer another shout out in this category because it was a very tight pick for me this year. And the shout out will go to a game called The Messenger. It's a game more in the style of a, you know, old 16-bit platformer like the old Ninja Gaidens. But just the music in it is all chiptunes, and it is just absolutely wonderful, and I think everybody should play that game and listen to the music and buy the soundtrack because it's awesome.
Sorry, which one was that?
The Messenger.
I was totally into the 14 music.
Understandable.
Yes, I talked about this game in an earlier one too, I believe.
Very, very good.
This is actually some gameplay. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. And
Yeah,
the game is
great
about the
sound.
same pace as the sound. Like,
Yeah.
like that's very important. And from what I'm seeing here, everything's moving in perfect pace with all this music. It's a fairly quick pace game. I like it. I like it.
If you haven't played it, go play it.
Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. I haven't played it yet, so maybe I will go play it. Which brings us to our favorite hidden gem. And since you got to talk a little bit about it, would you like to talk some more about it?
You know, I would. There's a very easy pick for me here. It's an indie game that a lot of people, you know, may not have seen, but it is a game that I try to expose people to as much as possible. And that would be, ooh, Cocoa Pebbles, very nice. Actually, Slay the Spire. This is you've got the wrong card up there.
I had the wrong information somewhere.
Oh. Well, I did put it in the Discord. I just went and checked. But anyway, Slay the Spire is an absolutely wonderful deck building game. It's a game that I went into length about at our recent indie game roundup because I really do think it's just a phenomenal game to play. It is so much fun. It's a game in which you are building a deck in order to climb your way up the spire. And the spire being, you know, just a thing. It just exists. Go climb it. But you build your deck. You then use that deck to battle past all of the enemies in the spire. And just the versatility of the deck building, the versatility of the different characters that you can be, you know, giving you different card sets, the versatility of the different relics that you can gain that give you passive abilities, the different potions that you can get which give you different active abilities, and the fact that it is, you know, roguelite and has a modifier system so that you can all have all sorts of crazy different I'm going to use the word modifiers again because I was going to use a different one, but then I lost it. All sorts of different modifiers to your run, and it's almost endlessly replayable. I recently got Deus into the game, and now I'm playing it again, and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. And it's just a really fantastic game.
I can 100% vouch for his pick. His pick? That guy over there. There we go. Yeah. Absolutely play that game. 100%. But there is a note do not play the game when you have something to do in the next 12 hours. Make sure
yeah,
that you're
'cause
like, I'm not going to be doing anything for a while, and they told me to check this game out. Let's check this game out.
Because you're gonna get into it, and then you're gonna go, "Oh, that was fun. I'm gonna do that again." And then it'll be like 7 in the morning. You'll be like, "Oh, I really should have slept."
Yep. You'll hit a boss. You'll be like, yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, kick that boss's ass. And then you're gonna die. You'll be like, oh, I want to beat that boss. Next deck.
And then you start a new deck, and oh, this one's not quite as powerful, but I gotta try and get it back to that boss.
And then suddenly a rare drops.
7 or 8 runs later.
No. See, even then, like, you've got the bad run, but you keep pushing forward, and then all of a sudden you get a rare card, and you're like, oh, I didn't know about you. And all of a sudden everything just works. You're like, oh, right on, yes. And then you start doing well for a bit, and then you die.
And then you fire up another run.
Yep. My hidden gem. Also, you should play. And also, you should not play if you have to do anything in the next day. Give yourself a clear break. My pick for this year, if you haven't played it, is Kenshi. Very, very, very cool game. Very, very, very strange game. Very, very, very different game. And also a game that someone else on the panel got me into. Thanks, Pseudo.
No problem at all. It is very much so a time sink.
Oh, yes. It will consume your days. But it's just so much fun. It really is. And it is a rewarding little game to play. You build your own stories. There's no story in the game. But because it's such a rich world that they've created with depth and struggle and strife and friendship, there's slavers, there's just hungry roams of bandits running around, murdering anybody they find and stealing their food or getting killed by them trying. It's a pretty desperate land.
It's mostly struggle.
It's mostly a land of struggle, but there is some friendly people out there. There's big towns that are welcoming to you. There's business they're willing to do. But there's an entirely underbelly side to the game. You can run out to the swamp and buy yourself a bunch of hash and then smuggle it back into towns and find people to sell it to at huge markups because the guards don't let it in, so it's hard to get there. There's so much depth to the game. I've given you the tip of the iceberg. I strongly encourage you to pick up the wonderful little gem of Kenshi and try to explore its world. Watch out for flesh spiders.
Those are bad, by the way.
They will eat you alive. That's the only tip I'll give you.
Also, don't forget about Prayer Day. Always have your book.
Oh, yes.
Always have your
I've actually lost an entire game civilization playthrough where I had a wall and a gate and 2 buildings and 3 farms and a well and a metal manufacturing area. I even had an extra hired lackey guy to run back and forth to the iron ore and back and bring me iron constantly when he's not sleeping. That's his job. Go mine. Bring it back, we'll craft it into stuff. I had a little production chain going. I had like 4 people, and then I missed Prayer Day. And now every time a patrol comes by, if I'm not looking, they murder everyone in my base. So I had to abandon that
Prayer
game.
Day.
Don't miss Prayer Day. And Pseudo.
Yep. Probably gonna get talking this game to death, but it's one of the ones I really enjoyed, and I feel like not a lot of people know about it. So I'm gonna talk about Void Bastards.
Absolutely. We are more than happy to learn more about this game because I don't think Rage knows anything about it. Not much.
I've seen a little gameplay, but not enough. I do want to play the game more.
I feel that it really kind of fell under the radar I'm not too sure why or how. I know a bunch of other people have talked about it, but everyone's kind of just like, this is a really good
All
game.
right,
And it came
everyone,
out like this year, and a lot of people forgot that it came out this year. And I think the problem with it probably being kind of shorter of a game, where the game loop's fairly straightforward, is that it, I guess, can be a bit forgettable, but the actual experience when you're playing is very very fun. It's a fantastic little game. I don't think it's very expensive, probably around like 20 or $30 or something. A little cheap game to pick up just to have some fun with. You don't have to worry about having anything to do in 12 hours. It's very easy to pick up and drop off because you can just do a ship and then do something else for a while and then come back to another element, do another ship or two, and try to find some items and then kind of pick up and go.
Yeah, we're looking at some of the gameplay right now while you're talking about it. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what they're actually doing right now.
So the basis of the game is that you're a little robot thing that can control these. You play as the prisoners. Um, it's a lot of kind of lighthearted humor around that, kind of a lot of prison commentary with the current systems that are in place in the world. But the gist of it is that you are controlling a prisoner. They have some certain stats. You're basically going from ship to ship trying to craft. I think the first thing you try to craft is an ID badge, and you're basically just trying to craft these silly little things that you need to go with the story. I won't spoil too much. And then along the way, you're also trying to grab items for different different weapons and different kind of accessories that you'll need. And as you craft the main stuff, such as like the ID badge, you'll need to start. Okay, well now you have to craft a printer for it, and the stuff you'll craft eventually unlocks the lower and lower depth, as they call it. You can go lower and lower because you can go right as long as you want, but you can start going diving deep down. And the farther down you dive, the kind of more extreme stuff that'll start showing up. But the basic game loop is just going ship to ship, looking for parts, scanning ships for certain parts that you're actually wanting, and what weapons are on board. The current enemy that's on the screen right now is actually terrifying. Those things will mess you up and follow you around, and is by no means an easy kind of run and gun game. You will have to kind of plan out how you're going to deal with those guys, kind of have the right weapons in order to kind of deal with them, or if you want to sneak around them or juke around a corner and then lock them in a room, that's also a possibility. There's a lot of different kind of play styles you can do with this.
And again, the visual style is just so cool in this game.
It really is.
I really like how they did like every little minute detail. Like right now he's running and you can see that he's making noise. When you make noise, it kind of has that bunch of lines that shoot everywhere. Um,
Yeah.
when those things are talking, all the enemies, how they kind of have the old school ray tracing, just flat image that like just looks at you, not 3D at all, just flat 2D, but still just looks beautiful. Um, the sound effects, the splash when it shoots in the stuff, everything is just polished so well. Just very, very, very good job on it.
Stomp, stomp, stomp.
And now he's in a bad way.
Yep. Good thing he had explosives.
Oh, he's running out of health. Oh man, risky. But yeah, you're getting moments like that where it's just things get so intense and you'll have a bunch of stuff on you, or like you'll have a character that like a lot of the ships that some ships you can find will have vending machines you can use to like upgrade your traits or remove certain traits. I think that's one of them actually right now.
So
So
what
you
did
can go in. That's a healing one actually, but you can replace traits. You have things like you no longer make noise when you run, or sometimes there's negative traits you'll have. Like one of the characters I first started off with was a smoker, so he'd cough, which makes sneaking impossible because you just start coughing and everything in the ship just knows where you are because you're just coughing all the time and stuff like that. One of my favorite ones is you can get someone who's tall, and the only real difference is that the camera is now a couple, like a foot or two higher, and you just look down and everything. Which is I think there's like a few
That's
doors.
wonderful.
There's a few doors that you have to like crouch to get into, but other than that, your guy's just tall. It's just kind of. I'm not sure if there's a short version of that too. I wouldn't be surprised if there is one where you just play as like some really short guy. But yeah, there's a lot of. I keep discovering new things every time I play, and then like, you don't really. I usually don't like roguelikes too much because I get sad when my characters die. I get frustrated. I lose my gear. And this game, when you die, the backpack that I guess technically is you just ejects from the ship and still has some of the stuff you got, so you don't lose the gear you have. You just get a new character, and you don't really get attached to the characters. You just kind of get a new one. It's also kind of exciting. Like, oh, that sucks. But now, like, you're like get excited. Oh, what am I going to get now? Like, what kind of weird weird depraved criminal am I going to be now? Am I going to be
Yeah.
some guy who's just is going to be scared all the time, and or one guy that's just like a there's one retreat with a dude will just close doors behind you all the time, which is kind of helpful sometimes. It's one of those weird things. It's not always negative or positive. Sometimes it's annoying because you want to turn around now the door's closed, but sometimes you have stuff chasing you, you'll just start closing doors behind you, which is like very useful.
Interesting and strange and kind of, you know what it reminds me of? These traits as you talk about them, it has a real old Fallout feel to it.
Yeah, it does. I think that's what it kind of tapped into for me, where it's like not always negative, not always positive. You just kind of just general silliness into them as well.
Yeah, a little bit of silly, a little bit of fun, because it's a game. Like we always talk about, games are supposed to be fun. That is the core principle of a game. I think I may pick this up too.
It's a good one. It deserves the attention.
Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right. So the next three categories are because somebody once asked me, you know, people always do, all these game awards and stuff, but I have this system and, I can't always play all the games on the awards. No one ever tells me what the best game was for my system. I was like, you know what? That's a really good point. I'll add that to my panel that I do. So, here we are. And we're going to be talking about our favorite game on PC, our favorite game on PS4, our favorite game on Xbox One, and then we're going to talk about our favorite game overall.
So, starting with PC, I would have to say that my favorite game for PC in 2019 was Sekiro. And it's for reasons that we have touched on in almost every character, almost every category so far. It just it's a game that just keeps proverbially giving for me. It's one of those games that's just really, really wonderful.
Pseudo?
So my mic drop there. I'm gonna have to go with Sekiro as well. Um,
Best game
it's
on
just
PC?
overall, yeah, it's just out of the games I've played, I just started playing it recently too. It's just from the actual like technical levels, just the way it feels. It is probably by far one of the best games, or is the best game that came out this year and maybe even this decade. Um, but I do want to give a quick shout out to the to Rockstar for porting Red Dead Redemption to PC. Even though it wasn't perfect or beautiful, I'm still glad that they're doing this because I kind of like I really like that game. Glad it's out on PC. Glad they did a good job. It is beautiful. They made it even prettier somehow, and you can somehow afford the latest high end graphics cards. But overall, best game would probably I'd say would be Sekiro.
Did have a rocky launch,
Yeah.
very rocky on
It was a
PC.
little rough. And
Uh,
that. Sorry, go ahead.
as is tradition at this point. For a
As is tradition with Rockstar games, yes.
But hold on.
any,
Just because a studio does something every single time doesn't mean you don't fault them for it.
that is fair. It is definitely not a good thing, but I think the launch is separate of the actual game itself. I think single player wise, it was fine. There were some on launch bugs, some issues with people in single player, but overall, I'm just glad that they're still kind of looking at the PC market because a lot of kind of console exclusive games will never even think about porting, and then when they do eventually port, they are quite quite awful, a lot worse than some of the other stuff is launched with, and most studios aren't exempt from this, including FromSoft. The original PC port was uh,
Yeah.
it was terrible, where someone had to actually fix it themselves and release a fix for it. I remember the DS fix being
Yeah,
fairly
the original
popular.
release of Dark Souls on PC was not good.
No.
It was not a good port.
But Sudo, maybe try just swallowing your mic for the rest of this session.
I will try my best.
Yeah. Get you sorted out with some new sound equipment soon, man. I got my setup for reasonable. I'm very happy with it. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Rage.
Yeah, I've got
No
everything
problem.
now. Just didn't want to plug it in the 10 minutes I had before.
That's totally fair. Totally
Yeah,
fair. I
wanna test things
appreciate you
out
not
first.
doing your debugging in real time on the panel. And bringing me to my favorite game on PC. Get ready for a surprise and a shock. I too have picked Sekiro. But
Who'd have thunk it?
what can I say? It's how tight the timing in the combat. It's how tight the buttons in the combat feel. It's how responsive the controls feel. From has nailed it with their engines. They're getting to the next level when it comes to combat in their engines. I have a hard time playing other games because I expect them to be as fast and smooth and fluid as Sekiro, and it takes me a while to adjust to this isn't Sekiro.
That's a real thing. That is a real problem. I have experienced that to a great degree as well.
It's just absolute masterpiece. Absolute masterpiece. And the PC version of it was great. It has all the options that you would hope for and want in a PC game, really. Maybe a little bit more lacking on the graphics option side, but there's still enough.
I would say it has enough graphical options, but one of the nice things is that it does have support for very wide aspect ratios right out of the box as well.
Yep, it does do double inversion. Thank you very much. I was able to play it. I'm very happy about that. Subtitles, and it ran phenomenally on the PC. I didn't hit a single bug, no crashes that I remember. I mean, there are bugs in the game itself, but whatever. Speedrunners will always find something to abuse.
Always.
Goddamn air flying ruining my game. But yeah, and load times and responsiveness and all that was just fantastic. Absolutely no complaints. Bringing us to our PS4 winner.
Which, you know,
Yeah.
Sekiro is cross-platform.
And on the PS4 note, the load times, while obviously not PC, were still reasonably good. I mean, it was
not
playable. Although, so Pookie, hey Pookie, she was playing it at the same time as I was. And I was playing on my PC and she was playing on the PS4 Pro. And we would start loading an area. Oh, make sure you're playing on a Pro. I don't think it plays on a regular one. I don't even know if it would.
I think it does, just not quite
Well.
as fast.
Yeah. And frame drops could be catastrophic in combat in that game. Catastrophic.
I think the difference is that it does actually render at a lower internal resolution, so you
I'm
do
sure.
get a consistent 60 FPS.
That's good then. That's even better. But yeah, I found the PS4 port great. She was able to play through the entire game and go through Sword Saint Ishin, and yeah, it was fine, other than the fact that every once in a while we would try to load the same area at the same time, and my overclocked chip with high-end video card and NVMe 4X hard drive would load the area so quickly that I would be able to run through the area and be loading the next area before she was finished loading that area.
Yeah,
so if you-
PCI-based SSDs are a thing.
If you can play on PC, a really high-end PC is going to make a much better gaming experience. It is. It always is. But if all you have is a PS4, and you're wondering what the best game made on your PS4 was last year, it was Sekiro. And you should probably get Sekiro for your PS4 if you don't have it. Bringing us to the best game on the Xbox One. Shock and surprise!
Sekiro
is Sekiro.
continues to be cross-platform.
And is this actually the first FromSoft game on an Xbox?
No. The original Dark Souls actually came out on the Xbox 360, and all of them have.
Really?
Yep.
How did I never
only
play it
games
for
that-
360? I had a modded one.
I don't know.
I mean, I bought every game for it.
But the thing with the Souls games is only Demon's Souls was published by Sony. It's the only one that was locked to a Sony platform. And then the same story with Bloodborne. It was published by Sony. It is locked on a Sony platform. And frankly, go buy a PS4 for Bloodborne. It's that good.
Yeah, if we were doing these awards the year Bloodborne came out, pretty much every category would be dominated by
character
Bloodborne.
and writing.
What are you talking about? I'd say it's my favorite writing.
I'd say it's my favorite world, not necessarily my favorite writing.
No, everything about the game.
Oh yeah, this is we're talking about, like, if I had to pick my number one favorite game of all time, it would probably be Bloodborne.
No, you're wrong. It wouldn't probably be Bloodborne. It is Bloodborne. That is how strongly I feel about that.
The only game that for me could give it a run would be Dark Souls 1, because that was my introduction to the Souls series and really personally taught me a lot about my life.
I could see that. I could see that giving it a fair run. And it is a masterfully crafted game. It truly is. Truly is, in the top 5-10 best games ever made. Without a doubt.
So I suppose that brings us to our favorite overall.
Which should... Okay, hold on. Can anyone guess? I just want to see if anyone in the chat can give a guess as to what this game actually will be.
At this point, when we've had 3 categories that we just announced that were all Sekiro, our favorite combat was Sekiro. 2 out of our 3 favorite bosses was Sekiro.
And different bosses from the game.
Yeah. I think it's fairly easy to intuit what our favorite overall game for 2019 is going to be. And honestly, the fact that we all chose Sekiro kind of surprised me. I did not think that Pseudo would like it as much as he did.
I did not expect Pseudo to pick it for best overall either. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a fantastic game. It's taken me longer to kind of get through parts, since it is like my kind of introductory to the series, and I haven't had enough time to really throw it that I'd like to. But overall, for 2019, it's one of the games that I'm playing, and I'm constantly just going like, wow, ooh, ooh, and then it's like they get to those hard enemies, and every time I message you is like, oh, is this a boss? He's like, no, that's just some dude. I'm like, oh,
No, this is a guy.
oh, okay, well, he fights and feels like a boss. It's like so much effort into that. It's just kind of, it's been really cool. I've enjoyed it a lot. It's definitely stood out, and I think 2019, it's just the first thing that comes to mind has been Sekiro.
I'd like to share that quote with the rest of the world, because I think it just sums up FromSoft so beautifully. It really does. So what Pseudo's talking about, a tough enemy, he fought a guy that kicked his ass, and he had to run for his life, and like jumped off a cliff, and the guy followed him down the cliff and murdered him, and he was like, who was that guy that followed me down the cliff? I was like, oh, he's just a regular enemy. God damn it, FromSoft. That is the appropriate response. God damn it, FromSoft. And Sudo, you're a little quiet, so if you can get closer to the mic for this one, because I saw that you beat Lady Butterfly, and I haven't gotten to talk to you since. And as a homage to Sekiro, I would love to hear about your experiences with Lady Butterfly.
Yeah, it was like the first like kind of real boss that you kind of run into, at least from my experience with that game, where I kind of had to sit down and be like, oh, okay, this thing's not kind of we're not messing around anymore here. I really got to kind of buckle down. I like how they when they one thing that kind of I didn't like too much is right out of the gate they just kind of say, here are some stat keys, you'll need these, and it's kind of like a oh, okay, cool, and it's not like it didn't like fully hold your hand, but it was nice to know like, oh, I'll need them for this certain part. But for me, it was like, well, I have no idea where to get these. I'm not sure if I want to turn around or not, but I'm just gonna keep trucking on forward anyways without them. So it wasn't too bad, but the actual fight itself was very well done. I There was a lot of smaller things that I caught. It took me a while to kind of adjust to the fighting style because I'm usually way too kind of defensive when fighting a lot of the characters in the game, mostly because I'm just scared because I'm new and shit hurts. But I found that just kind of rushing her and then attack, dodge, just not letting her get the chance to throw or try to do anything to me um, was worked well for me, as well as anytime she jumped up on the wire, just immediately start throwing stuff at her and trying to use the pillars to kite. And I loved how the boss progressed, and as the further and further you got along, the more and more the kind of surroundings, the fire was spreading, and there's more and more kind of damage everywhere, and the more and more intense everything got. It was really cool, and then the whole kind of 2 health bars kind of bullshit that happens in games where I should have expected it. And I was like, took me a little bit to get the first one down. I'm like, I got him, and it's like, oh, you think that's it? It's like, no.
Now get ready to get your ass kicked.
And then finally getting the second one. It's just the reward that you get for the effort you put in is just fantastic. Even if you don't get it in like the first day that you're trying, and you come back, let's say it takes you a few days, it's worth it. It just feels phenomenal. You're like, I finally did it. Oh my god! And then you take 2 steps, and you're like, what the hell is that thing?
And then it kills you.
Yeah.
And then you start over.
But yeah, it's been a while since you get kind of skill locked and skill checked by something like that. A lot of the games I play are FPS games, so it's not really. I kind of go into them with a 20-year experience under my belt with this kind of things. It never really takes me any effort to fight bosses in those kind of games, and they're mostly just like, oh, you shoot him in the head and he dies. It's like, oops, I got him. And then like this game, it's like, oh, you need to like have these 7 to 8 mechanics under your belt to even get to the second phase. And it's like, oh, well, time to just start practicing on this person for a while, and hopefully I'll kind of get there eventually.
Yep. I've had the exact same experience when I started playing these games because I'm coming from MMOs and JRPGs, and you put one of those in front of me, I don't care what game it is, I'll wreck it. I will trash that game. MMOs, bring it on. I don't put the time into them now that I used to, but I'm sure I could challenge just about anyone out there. Give me enough time to warm up on the game. No problem. Just need to have a good one worth putting the time into. Looking at you guys, Pantheon, Visionary Realms. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Please finish that game. I want to experience good MMO. I've never played a good MMO. Let me do it.
Anyway, we are a little early, which is kind of nice because I do have to now drive all the way to Pseudo's house in order to have some dinner with the family. It's been a lovely little award show. I hope you all have gone and bought Sekiro.
If you haven't yet, it was on sale. What the hell are you doing?
It still is, I think. I think the winter sale's still up.
Still going until January.
It is going till January, so it is on sale until January.
So it is on sale right now. What the hell are you doing? Go buy it.
Lo already has a copy, like a good boy. We really look forward to hearing about your experiences with it. And go ahead and yell at us to hurry up and do the getting good so that we can help you with it. And we'll start.
Yeah, we really need to do those videos.
So we've got to get together and do a little bit of storyboarding, and then get into some Dark Souls and start doing some recording. And that's about it. Then we're good to go. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. This, our very last Games by Design panel for this year. Sounds great. Excellent. Excellent, though. Hope you all have a wonderful 2020. We will be back in 2020 with a new topic.
One of the ones, I don't know when we're going to do it, but it's very important to me, is video game options menus.
Yes.
I think that's something that's very important to talk about.
You know what? We can do that one next week.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's do video games options.
Next week, we will be talking about option menus in PC video games specifically, but we'll go it'll cover everything because PCs are usually the most robust. So we'll be going into a lot of video options and telling you kind of what they do and where they work and fun stuff like that, so that you have a little bit of a sense of what's going on when you're trying to set all those options. Because we know 90% of you gamers out there get under that screen and are just going, okay, it worked. All right. Thank you very much for joining Games by Design this evening. As always, I am Deus.
I am Rage.
And I'm Pseudo.
Wishing you a very happy 2020, happy New Year, happy holidays, and may all your shots be happy, happy headshots. Good evening.